Yeah, okay. Senator Osotsi, just take your seat. Senator Cheruiyot, you queued after I had made my communication. Anyway, proceed to make your contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You are right, and thank you for agreeing to indulge me. This is a very important bill which we should not allow to pass without giving our thoughts to it. A proposal by Senator Godfrey Osotsi, member for Vihiga, to amend the powers and privilege, Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act, Mr. Speaker, to give effect to Article 125 of the Constitution by operationalizing the powers of arrest by Parliament, and Article 50 of the Constitution on the right to a fair hearing and connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, this is an important act of Parliament, which I want to agree, though I'll have certain thoughts which I think were Senator Osotsi. And this is something which Senator Cherargei, Senator Lelegwe, and I'm trying to see other jailbirds in the House, Mr. Speaker. I cannot notice jailbirds of the previous regime, people who have suffered the very, Mr. Speaker, inhumane and totally irresponsible acts of the excesses of the police, Mr. Speaker, as honorable members of Parliament. This is something for which I think we can easily cross ranks. A honorable member, Mr. Speaker, is not an ordinary citizen, not because you're elected, but because you speak on and on behalf and for behalf of other people, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, in going about your duties, many are the times for which you will be caught in certain situations for which, if it was upon your individual choice, Mr. Speaker, you may not have been there. But in your duties as you represent other people, there are places you'll have to go. There are things you'll have to say. You know, Mr. Speaker, there are people you'll have to rub the wrong way on behalf of the people that you speak for, Mr. Speaker. And that is not an easy exercise. And therefore, the casual nature with which I see members of Parliament many times just arrested, you know, from bars and I don't know what, dragged, as used to happen in the dreaded days of the handshake, Mr. Speaker, is something that we need to lay behind, so that members of Parliament, just like other ordinary citizens, can feel that they enjoy the very rights under our Constitution that we so proudly enjoy, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this is an attempt to provide for clear channels of how members of Parliament specifically are treated during time when police, for one reason or the other, want to attract your attention. I have never understood, Mr. Speaker, why Subarus and Land Cruisers, Mr. Speaker, will be chasing a honorable member of Parliament around town, trying to get their attention. Yet, you know, all it takes is just a phone call. If it is Senator Methu that you want, you just drop a phone call to him and say, you are needed at Dondori police station. You are wanted because there are sacks of potatoes that disappeared and we think you may know a thing or two about them. Why do you have to come and embarrass him in this town, Mr. Speaker? Chase him around like a common criminal. Somebody who represents millions of people, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I want to agree. There are not very many things that I agree with Senator Osotsi. But this, at least on that particular provision and to give right to Article 50, I must agree with him, Mr. Speaker, and urge colleagues that on this very important issue, let us close ranks. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the clerk, in fact, it provides for ways through which you can provide the sermon at any given time because of our staffers and the records that are available in the precincts of Parliament. In whichever part of the world where we are in, Mr. Speaker, the office of the clerk is always aware where members are. Be it that we are on recess, we are on holiday, or even in terms of session such as now. Therefore, this provision to provide that the clerk shall cause summons to be served within 7 days of receipt of directives, such that when you are needed, it is important to inform, you know, the clerk and say, we need member XYZ, please tell him to appear before such and such a police station in a nice and decent way. And I expect, Senator Osotsi, that we don't stop at members of Parliament alone. That needs to be the norm even for ordinary citizens, except for criminals who are on the run. There is no need, all this drama that we see many other times about running around. You know, policemen sometimes, Mr. Speaker, are just excited about humiliating ordinary citizens, Mr. Speaker. And we need not stop at just members of Parliament alone. There are people, many citizens, Mr. Speaker, who if invited to, they'll be willing to